welcome to episode 99 of my POA podcast, Black Hand and Beyond. It's a Tuesday night, so we're here at Studio J in Enid, Oklahoma, bringing you a great podcast tonight. This is the Wiescamp Impact episode, and I have a very special guest tonight that I'm going to bring on shortly here. The reason we're a little late, not because I did sell a couple cars today, and I didn't have technical issues. Bob and I started talking, and we just, I was listening to some of Bob's stories, and I said, hey, we're going to have to get on the air. So, Bob, I'm going to bring you in right now and introduce you. How you doing tonight?
Oh, pretty good.
Good. So this is Bob Roseland from Iowa. He's been in horses pretty much his whole life. You grew up around POAs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you really got interested in other horses too, pretty much primarily Appaloosas and quarter horses. But you always stayed true to POA, I would say too.
Yeah, I gotta come back. It was the Wiescamp bloodline and everything.
It was the Wiescamp. Yeah. Have you ever raised any paints?
Fun.
Have you ever raised any?
No. They pop up once in a while.
All right. Right. And tonight we're not going to talk about paints, of course, but for several reasons. One, we're into POAs and Appaloosas, and we have a lot of quarter horses to talk about. And then there's just not enough time, So, and it doesn't relate to POAs. So people are starting to join. Some of our regulars like Terry, Jan, Jackie, Tracy, they're all on here. I knew we were going to get a lot of people that love pedigrees. I know Jeremy will be watching. And this, the impact of Wiescamp has affected way more people than people know. And there's horses showing today, like at the Futurity, there was horses there related to Wiescamp that a lot of people wouldn't realize that they're related. And of course, just the Appaloosa program through Prince Bloddet too. But I have this picture up right now, and we were kind of talking about this before the show, but you took this picture in the stands and we're in Cannon Falls, right?
Yeah.
Of Prince Fury?
Yeah. I always saw Prince Fury in the Appaloosa Journal, and I just thought he was awesome. And when I found out Money Creek was having a dispersal, I just had to go. So I got some non-horse friends with me to go. We drove up early and went in there and come around the corner, and here was Prince Fury standing in the alley, and I just about fell over. He was awesome. And he wasn't very big, but little ears, great big jaws, massive body. And so that was a thrill for me.
Right. Yeah. That's the first time you've seen him in person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd seen his picture.
And then Sheldack Ranch bought him, and they used him for a few years. And then they sold him to just kind of a backyard breeder up in northern Minnesota, a late girl and her mom, and they advertised standing him at stud. So I took some mares up and bred to him, and Ultimate Fury was a result of one of those. And Bud Campbell, he was obsessed with him. He bred some mares. Yeah. And then Cindy Frazier at the time from Tipton, Iowa, I think, bred some mares.
Yeah. So Sheldax was a big deal when they bought him. I mean, they were already a big deal in POAs, but Bud was a POA breeder pretty much. He was the contending bidder on him, was what he always said anyway. And so then when Sheldax got him, he felt kind of bad, but then afterwards, he used him quite a bit. Bred mares, hauled mares to him once he sold
then
him.
After a while, this girl called me and she said she wanted to sell Prince Fury. And he was like 20, I think. And I said, yeah, I'll take him. So I went and got him home here. And then Larry Myers had heard about that I had him, and him and Mike Hendricks come over and hard shipped him. And I always wondered if they slipped him in, if he was, 50. And he told me later, said, no, he measured in easy. Right. And so the next year, the mares I had bred, next year Skip Intense was born out of a little Wiescamp mare. And then after that was Sunbright Prince, and
So babies that were going to be app babies were now double registerable. Yeah. Which a lot of them stayed in height anyway, so that was cool. Yeah. Well,
that's the thing about the Wiescamps, that they're line bred. And one of the things that happens when you're line bred is you lose size. Right. And so that's why a lot of them were small. They work good on POAs.
Right, they do. Yeah. Well, Prince Fury's son, Gold Prince. He was even a little shorter. And
Well,
had
yeah, he was kind of the start of it.
yeah.
That
He kind of
he kind of
started it.
got famous,
Right.
and yeah,
Yeah, I know Bud, Bud Campbell didn't have much to do with Gold Prince, but he's kind of the one that discovered him because he knew all about Money Creek. I remember when we'd drive by there after there was like buffalo or something there, or whatever they ended up raising their elk or something. He almost would get a tear in his eye, and he'd go, "There's the old Money Creek Ranch."
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he was he loved because he would go there and just look at their horses. And
Huh.
but even though
Oh, Ruth Pecoy tells a story. She went up with some people to Money Creek. We're looking at horses, and they were in the pasture with Prince Fury, and Ruth played like she had a bad leg and had a cane, and she had one of those canes with a measuring stick in it. And she said that she told everybody else to go on, don't wait for her, and she stayed back by Prince Fury and whipped out and measured him.
Oh,
She
really?
says, I knew he was under 14 hands back then. Yeah.
He wasn't very big. No, well,
No.
yeah. But I mean, by the time you hardshipped him, he was a lot older too, and we all know
Yeah.
horses, just like
Yeah. He
people,
probably shrunk.
they shrank. Yeah. But
Yeah.
Gold Prince was definitely under 14 hands, but he was
Huh.
he was down a little bit, you know what I mean? From just like Prince Fury was shorter than Prince Plotted, but he was huskier, I think, So,
Well, somebody had said they saw Prince Fury's mother, and she was a really cute, small Palomino mare.
right.
So,
Well, Rogers ended up having the full sister to Gold Prince. I think they bred Takapa to her to get tribute. Yeah. And then you showed me pictures of the mare, and I'll show it later, but we're jumping a little bit, but that's fine.
Okay.
But no, we're fine. I'm doing it myself. But Monty's Award, and K&K's Monty's Award and Gold Prince were closely, they like competed against each other, and their pedigrees was pretty similar, just kind of
they're
flipped.
like flip-flopped. Yeah.
Yeah, the Joker's Monty. Yeah.
On one side, and then Prince Fury on the other side, and then flipped was the Joker's Money, and then Prince's Award was like a 7/8 sister.
Yeah, and I showed that picture that you sent me last night of Prince's Award, and she was older. Like you said, she didn't look that good then, but she was awesome as a. I could just see Prince Fury in her though.
Well, I remember pictures of her. Money Creek had her, and she was a cute little mare, and I tracked her down somehow, and ended up trading over the phone, sight unseen. I traded a splash bar quarter mare, and somebody took my mare down, and then I had that mare delivered right to Spanish Array. And I talked to Marcia that owned Spanish Array and said, what do you think? Well, she's a cute little mare. She has one eye. And so they got her in foal, and I think I left her down there to foal, and they had to pull the baby and everything, but they got him out, and he was a Palomino Leopard stud colt.
That's cool. Where did he end up going? Did he?
Oh, I kept him around, used him for a while, and then I sold him, and I think that guy down in Missouri had him quite a while till he died.
Right. There's still to this day a following of Wiescamp people, isn't there? That especially in the quarter horse, but I mean, there's a collection of Wiescamp breeders that's all they want. And I mean, you kind of fit. You're in that bill too, but you're unique because you raise Appaloosas and POAs. I think
it's hard to find good ones now, though. They've gotten so diluted and dispersed and died off. And
some people will show pictures, and I'm like, I don't even follow some of the Wiescamp pages anymore because it's like, well, it's when you get great grandson of Skip's Napoleon, now we're getting down that ways, But I get it. So I was going to introduce some of your stock to people that might not be familiar. You guys can go on Roseland Ranch on the Facebook. Bob and Kay has a really nice Facebook page with hundreds of pictures, all their babies over the years. How many babies you usually have a year, would you say?
Oh, there's between 20 and 30.
Okay, 20 and 30. All right. I would say that's on the conservative side, Bob, but that's all right. So stud-wise right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have Smooth Agent, Silent Sham, Sham Wow, and Silent Night. Them are your POA studs, right? Your main ones. I imagine you got a few hiding around too. I know you do. But and then what do you got for quarter horse studs now?
Skip Remnant, special cord one.
Okay, I showed pictures of those. So special
Black
cord
stud.
one's the black stud with the blue eyes, and
Yeah.
that got a lot
And
of
then,
attention.
sure enough, Cordero, he's in Utah now because,
Okay,
a year ago, last spring, he got real sick and lost a lot of weight and didn't want to eat. Something was wrong with his jaws, and he had to be on heavy antibiotics. And this spring, that guy in Utah that had him, he wanted some frozen semen from him. So we collected him, and his semen wasn't any good.
okay,
And so it's a good thing I figured it out before turning him out. But I ended up giving him to that guy, and just he can try to see if he can get anything out of him. He might be done for.
okay.
But I've got like 12 daughters of him and his sons and stuff. He's done a real good job. His folds are like cookie cutter.
Are
They're
they?
fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna close out Facebook for a minute. I'm gonna put my face on it. I was having some troubles with it, and you kept a lot of daughters of his. I mean, right?
Of who?
Of Sure Enough Cordero.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So he
Yep.
did.
I kept everyone, I think.
He kept everyone.
Yeah.
You kind of
Yeah.
copied what we.
No, there's some POAs that I've sold
Yeah.
by him. Yeah.
Well, they say Wiescamp did that with Skipper's King, right? That he didn't get rid of many of the daughters.
Yeah.
He didn't have
Yeah.
that many daughters, but he sure kept most of them. So, and then he kept a lot of the sons too, of course. So, I'm going back to find some pictures here. I had some issues with Facebook. Let's see. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna get some pictures back up here. I know I have your studs here somewhere. So some people said they had problems with sound, but I think that was on their end because everybody's got sound on my end. So there he is. That's all the work was for. So there's a picture of Sure Enough Cordero. He's a beautiful bay horse. He's good looking in any program, but I always liked him. I never seen him in person, but I seen a lot of pictures
His
of him.
sire, Cordero, was really a good horse, and he was small, but he had like 2 world champion halter mares in his pedigree, Wiescamp halter mares.
Cordero.
And he had
Okay.
like Skip a Cord, Skip a Star, plus the Wiescamp stuff.
Right.
And
So-
all those guys like Joe Taylor and Butch Hosmer and those Hosmer's raised Cordero.
Okay.
And them guys got divorced, and Hosmer's wife got Cordero. So then nobody wanted anything to do with him. They badmouthed him, said he was too small and everything. Well, then she died. Barb Hosmer died, and he went back to Butch and his boys. Well, then he was the greatest thing. Then they all started breeding to him. Well, this was Joe Taylor, bred Mexicali Shania, and got this Sure Enough Cordero.
Okay.
And he was only like 14.2, 14.3.
Okay. And Joe Taylor had Sure Enough Skippa, didn't he? Wasn't that one of his studs? He was Wiescamp.
Yeah, he was a good one. He was raised by Hank's daughter and son-in-law, Larry and Charlotte Wilcox.
Okay, yeah, they raised a lot of good ones for.
They raised a lot for a smaller amount that they raised a lot of good ones because they could just pick and choose whatever studs. And he's the one they made Skipalark famous because I don't know if Hank liked Skipalark that good. He was kind of plain-headed and but Wilcox, they figured out he crossed really well on Skipper's King daughters.
Really?
And so that's what Something Classic is, and Skip a Oak, and there's a whole bunch of them for that cross that were really good.
Okay. For some reason tonight I'm having problems with my pictures. There we go. I'm trying to listen to you and finagle this.
Oh, yeah.
Chuck Shackleton told me one time, I don't know how you push all those buttons, he goes, and you do all that stuff. I said, oh, that's the easy part. So let's see. There's a whole bunch of pictures of Prince Fury. Okay. There, I think, is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but let's see. Oh, that's Skip's barber. Yeah, that's not him, but we might get in this. So let's go find some pictures of your leopard studs and talk about them a little bit, and then we'll go back to, okay, here we go. This is the thread I wanted right here. There we go. That's the picture I want. It's the same picture, but that's the one I wanted right there. Now I can put my face back up in the corner here because we're doing good now. So, yeah, and I remember that Spanish Cordette. I remember seeing her on a video that Taylor was talking about. She was a good mare for him. Produced a lot.
Yeah, she was. He said his two best mares were her and Skipinade.
Okay.
Skipinade is in Silent Sham's pedigree.
Okay. We're going through some pictures of Sure Enough Cordero now. Like you said, he's not on your place anymore, but okay, here's Smooth Agent now. Here we go. So this is Smooth Agent, 55 inches. What was he born about? 2012? Smooth Agent, I think, around there. He's got a pretty head.
See, the deal, I had his Dirty Dealer.
Right.
Bred him to So Classic, was a Something Classic POA mare out of High Views, Bobby Jean. And she had this bay few spot stud colt. I called him Smooth Criminal.
Okay.
And I had high hopes for him. And then I was up at Gene Carr's. We were going on vacation, swung by there, and he had this Santee Delilah. And I thought, I liked her pedigree because she had Sierra Peak in there and Summer's Agent. And
right.
So I bought her for broodmare, bred her to this Smooth Criminal. I think they're both 2-year-olds. And then she had Smooth Agent the next year.
Okay.
And then the stud colicked and died. So I kept Smooth Agent, and then I think Silent Sham was born the same year too.
Okay. Yeah, I think he was. Silent Sham was born in 12. I know he was, yeah. So that's what happened to Smooth Criminal. Okay. And then, Delilah. And we'll talk about
baby.
Delilah some more. And you kept him.
Yeah.
And he's nice, too. We got some more pictures of him. But let's see if we go this way. Maybe we'll find some more pictures of him.
I didn't even breed anything to Smooth Agent this year.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh. There's his head. He's got that cluster of spots where a blaze should be. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a pretty horse. So, and then let's see. He's the sire to Jeremy and Julie stallion, right? Silent Review.
Yeah.
Yep, the J&J. And then he's also the sire to, let's see. No, he's not the sire to Sham Wow, is he? Silent Sham is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what I got in this group.
Jackie Guthrie's got a real good solid daughter, Smoothie.
Okay.
And Tracy Coyle's got a really good solid done there. I think you'll have a picture of her mother.
Okay. Well,
but,
she's in.
Yeah, there's a lot of good, and they all look alike too. He's got that pretty head, and he puts a real strong top line on.
Right.
Strong back. And
now we're looking at Silent Sham. He was the same year. You promoted him a little bit as a yearling. He was reserve grand as a yearling.
Yeah, that was
at the
Congress. The deal. Jeremy and Julie were here, and they wanted to show him, so I sent him down to them. Julie fed him, and Julie was going to show him as a yearling stud. And the weanling class before, she was showing one of Lynn's colts, I think, and it reared up and knocked her in the face. And I don't know if she broke her nose or what, but she had to leave, and then we didn't know what to do, so Jeremy grabbed him. Never shown before.
Never shown before, yeah.
And he won.
Yeah.
And he's a reserve grand, and then he won most colorful.
Right.
And then here a few years ago, I thought I really should get him out and try to win the Congress, and talk to Mark Borja. Mark Borja had seen him, and he wanted to show him, and I took him down to his place, and after a couple of weeks, he says, I don't think I better. So he didn't think he could handle him. He is kind of a handful.
Yeah, and he's been running on it. You see all this green grass. Yeah, he's kind of a pasture horse now.
So he'll probably never be shown again.
Well, that's all right. And then let's see. Oh, there's Smooth Agent again. So people are commenting on the big spots. For a guy that concentrates on so much quarter horse breeding, you have got the spots down. You know what I mean? You put as much quarter horse breeding in as anyone, or more, but you get the beautiful colors for sure. So I know you get solids
that all
too.
Comes from Dirty Dealer on
Dirty
these.
Dealer, yeah.
And what's it go back to? The series stuff, or
probably Lannon series super spots of one of the big reasons. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of horses go back to that. So there's Cordero again. I thought I had a picture. Okay, there's Remnant. I like him. It's Skip a Remnant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him. He's kind of a classic looking quarter horse, I think, or Wiescamp horse for sure. There's a picture of him too. Another picture of him.
Actually, he's probably close to 15 hands, but I had some POA babies this year that are smaller and a lot of color.
Right.
Really, I was surprised.
Well, if you cross them to the right mares, and you know what
Even
mares,
not out of few spot mares, they were
really
just out of colored mares.
Well, I noticed that too, that you do use few spots over the years, but you also, one of the reasons you get loud colors is you don't always use few spots. You gamble a little bit, so when you do get color, you kind of hit the jackpot. But you have a couple few spot stallions now that are kind of colored similar. They're not built similar, but we're looking at Silent Night right now. He's one of your young ones.
He's by Sham, and he's homozygous black, few spot with one pattern gene. And his mother was a real pretty little loud black leopard mare that I got from after Lynn Puffenbarger died. I went and bought a bunch of mares back that I'd sold him from Tommy. And we were loading them in this Dragon Den's black satin. He said, if you want her, you can just have her. Said she ran Lynn over before, and she's kind of a wild one. And so I said, yeah, I'll take her. And put her out with Sham. This is what she had.
She had him.
So,
and she's a Spanish Array granddaughter.
Yeah, she's got Spanish Array, and I'm a cool Skip.
Yeah.
Double bred Nugget Jim, which is a different loud leopard line. For
sure.
And but he got way taller than he should have, really. But I put him on, a lot of quarter mares and solid POA mares, and they're either vivid blanket or super loud colored.
Right. He may be taller than you thought, but he don't look that tall. You know what I mean? He looks in proportion and stuff. So I think he'll be all right. Yeah. Norm Stevenson told me one time about breeding color and stuff. He said he was talking about, I think, the Easy Nugget horse. He said, I went and got lazy. He said, I kept a few spot. He goes, he used to breed loud leopards too to quarter horses, and he'd get a share of solids. But boy, when he would get color, they'd be loud, But then he kept a few spot for a while. And here's another picture of Silent Night. So he's one of your younger studs. He's a 2020. So, and we're going to show old Wow's getting a lot of attention from this podcast or from the POA page anyway.
Oh, Sham Wow.
Yeah, because I know people were asking
he ended up on some like Appaloosa color page or something. Everybody thought he was a big horse.
Oh, okay.
I said, no, he's only like 50 inches.
Right.
Because the pictures are cropped, I guess.
Right.
But he's so little, he can't breed hardly anything. So
it's hard for him to,
I've kind of wasted him. I need to get him collected, really.
We're looking at Silent Sham now when they showed him. There's you and Kay, and then Jeremy and Julie. That's a good picture of you four, too. And he's a yearling. He won most colorful down there.
He's gotten way better with age. With like the Wiescamp stuff, they're kind of slow, real slow to come on. They don't really look their best till they're about 6.
Right. They develop as that horse. I think a lot of horses do that, but Wiescamps really do that. But when you cross them to the POAs, here's a young picture of Sham Wow. I believe that's him. Yeah, he's got the bigger spots, and then hopefully, so we're kind of all over the place right now. But here's the blue-eyed stud. He was getting a lot of attention too.
And we don't know where them blue eyes came from, but I had him tested animal genetics for their like the. What do you call it? The splash and the W20, but the main ones he didn't have, so I don't know.
He didn't have it, huh? He just wanted blue eyes. He wanted to be pretty and wanted to be different.
And he doesn't have a lot of white on his head,
No, he has a star. Yeah, and but he doesn't have a bald face by any means. So, he's a good-looking guy. Of course, those eyes, that picture right there is. Chilling. I mean, it's cool, but I could see where a non-horse person might think, wow.
We call him Spook for short.
Spook, yeah. I could see that because that's definitely, they pop in that color. So There's Silent Sham looking at the mares. I'm trying to find some. There's some more of Wow. I'm trying to get Sham Wow. So there's some as he's getting a little older. He's got a couple of those huge spots on him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know he's getting older and he's getting pretty husky. So, but he's a cool dude. He's being used. How many babies you got coming out of him or by him this year?
What, ShamWow?
Yeah.
Oh, there might be 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I put some smaller ones with him, and
Did ya?
he's kind of figuring out to get them bred.
I might have some more pictures of him too. So this was just a lot of your stallions.
Yeah, he looks big there, but he's tiny.
He's tiny, and he got on an app page. That's funny, or a color page, and people thought he was big. I know people were asking all about him. So I don't want to just do a slideshow. I want to kind of sit here and talk to you too. So some of the pictures might not match with what we're talking, but that's fine. So we talked about Skipper Remnant. I really like him. And then Special Cord one is the Blue Eyes. Of course, Sure Enough Cordero, and then Just Enough Skipper. We haven't talked about him yet. You kept some daughters of his, didn't you?
Yeah, Joe Taylor had him. He let me use him, in 05, because he had so many sisters to him, and so I turned him out. I had these Something Classic quarter mares, so they bred them to Just Enough, and then got fillies I kept out of that cross, and then I bred those to Sure Enough Cordero, and I got daughters out of most of those. So there's like 7, 8 sisters with that breeding.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I noticed that's one thing you really do well is you use a horse and you use him. You know what I mean? You get a set of brood mares out of him, and then he might move on, just like Cordero's went on now. Sure Enough Cordero, you got what you need, and maybe Something Classic and more like Sheer Classic and some of those too. Something Stellar. You'd get a group of mares that you had a mind of what you were going to do with them, cross them, and then then you move on to the next generation. I think that's pretty cool. So let's see here if we can find
that Spanish gent there. You see him?
Where's he at?
Oh, I think you're kind of delayed for me. John Anderson had him. He's by Smoothie, and out of a little quarter mare that was like 5 times Skip a Barb. Line bred. Skip a Barb was AQHA champion.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a nice stud.
Yep. John sent me a picture of him. He got him from you but he's JKA, but he's a cool, we talked about him. That's another thing I wanted to mention. Some programs might not get mentioned tonight, like Plauditz Crusader. We might not delve too deep into his, but you can go back and watch the Howard and Wanda Victor podcast. And of course, we are going to talk about the Santees here in a while, and Gene Carr was a big believer of using Wiescamp. Next to you, he was actually kind of doing it first, even, right, Bob? I mean, he was really putting it in, but you helped him get a mare or two, but he got stallions that were branded, and he really promoted the Wiescamp and even the other old bloodlines, you know what I mean, Coke Roberts and Shoemaker and all that stuff, and Peavy's, and he was into the older bloodline. So we're going to be covering that tonight a little bit. Here, we might as well just show some older pictures here. Let's just show some pictures. So you like Spanish Array, didn't you? I mean, you were a fan of him.
Yeah, the deal on him, I leased a mare called Cherry Lace from Sheldack Ranch. She was a few spot out mare. And the deal was I was supposed to breed her to a top quarter stud, and I'd keep a baby and then breed her back, and they would take her back. Well, so I went and looked around. I looked at I'm a Cool Skip and Zip to Impress. And then Gene Carr had said, well, go look at Spanish Array. He's Wiescamp branded. He just won the world. Said he's a good one. And so I went and looked at him, and wow, they let him out. And that front end and then his hip was unbelievable.
Right.
But from the back, his stifles looked like saddlebags. He's a little plain headed and a little bit low in the front, but I bred quite a few mares to him over the years.
Yeah. Did you breed that Cherry Lace then to him?
Yeah, she had a red leopard filly, called her Spanish Spectrum.
Okay.
And then I'd bred her to Skip's Reward, the app stud, and she had one of those loud bay leopards like I like called Spectre Vision, and had her shown, and I think she was world champion, most colorful app. And
I remember when that happened.
Bronze medallion winner and stuff, and
yeah.
led Kay in on her at her wedding on side saddle on her reception.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, that's a neat story. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when that mare won because it had a connection to the, POAs, even through you.
Yeah, she had a lot of Wiescamp in her, really.
Right, she did. So let's see. So here's the listed sire of Spanish Array, right? Skip's Barber. So
yeah.
I think he was probably heavier than what this picture shows. He was young and in shape here, fitted up, but we're not going to dive deep into the some of the romantic stories, but we could have a podcast just on the yeah, you could tell some just on the conspiracy stories of the Wiescamp history. Yeah. I've heard story, and I know you got plenty of them and some of them are true, and most of them probably are true. But you got to remember back then, and for the audience listening, Wiescamp loved to put chrome on his horses. That's why he bred paints, and he bred Appaloosas later.
They didn't do DNA back then either.
No, but the quarter horse was way stricter back then than they are now. And so he had some beautiful crop outs, that he just couldn't use. And so he started raising paints and kind of helped the paints, really, didn't he? His program.
Yeah.
Really. But now a lot of those horses would be registered. Well, they all would be. They'd all be registered quarter horses. But he was forced not to use them. So sometimes the rumor is, maybe he did use them a little bit. But hey, like I say now, it's come full circle. So
this is Spanish Gala, the mother of the Spanish Array.
Right.
Nothing fancy, but that mare produced, I don't know how many of those big, massive studs.
Right. She had the
Spanish
frame.
pose, Spanish Jude, Spanish skill.
Right.
And like Hank said, his producers weren't his show mares.
Right.
They were mares like this that nobody would pick out, but they produce like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And he always said something when they showed him, it took something out of him too.
Yeah, it took something out of him.
And the beauty queens ain't always the brood mares anyway. I mean, this mare and she's older in this picture. You can tell it looks like it's a hot day in Colorado. That was taken out there, but she had a lot of substance to her. But here's another picture of her too. Of course, Skip's bid was that big Palomino horse. He was huge. Did you ever get to see him in person?
No, the only pictures I've seen is those, front and rear view.
With that George Benelli or whatever holding him, or whatever his name is. Yeah, that's the only ones. Yeah, and I've never seen him in color. And yeah, I bet Frank Holmes got to see a lot of pictures. He probably had. I know he passed away now, but he probably has some hidden away somewhere. But you can imagine him going through pictures. Here's Spanish Array when he won the world. His owners are there, and then of course Hank's holding the trophy. But his program had kind of been not as popular on the show circuit by then, by '85. But he was still he was as popular as ever. Really, people still wanted his stuff. But there's Spanish Array. Yeah, that Spanish Skill horse. I've seen pictures of him. He was slabby too, big old chunky horse. And then of course Skip So Smooth was a good horse. But I think some of these pictures you might have took some of these of Spanish Array. I don't know which ones, but
there's a pro. They didn't have very good pictures of him. I didn't think. And
no,
I took that rear view.
Okay, that's what I thought. You took this one here.
There was a profile side one.
Okay.
I don't know if his tail was braided, but I think I photoshopped the tail in on it. But and I think I go down there, take something to breed, and Glenn and Marcia didn't even live on the place in the Meridian Ranch. It was off I-35. They lived in Enid, I think.
Right.
Drove over there every day, and so he just said, "Oh, just go stay in the trailer that a mobile home there and just stay there." So I'd go out and take pictures of Spanish Array when he was out in his pen or whatever.
So Goldtree is where that meridian was, and so I'm in Enid right now. That's where I live, and my house is about 6 miles from here, and I'm less than 30 miles from 35. But then you got to go the other way. You have to go west of Enid here, probably another 30 miles or so, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. And I've driven by it before, but my dad used to haul to it. My company hauled to it when we were in the horse transport
So is
business.
that where he was
That,
towards the end?
yeah,
Because
that was.
this was off I-35 towards Stillwater
Oh, okay.
when
Yeah.
they owned this big ranch, and
Okay.
then moved it later,
They
moved him
moved it
over.
later across to
Yeah,
Goldtree, yeah, and that's where
yeah.
he was about 15, 20 miles from Lynn then. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Lynn gave me a check one time when I was working for him, and it was on the bank of Goldtree. I had to drive up to Goldtree like 15 miles to go cash it because I was new to town, I didn't have an account. And so I drove by where my dad told me it was, and you still could see some of the remnants of the place, but of course he was long gone, and they were long
Hmm.
gone. But yeah, that's where when Lynn was hauling mares there to breed. And
Mm-hmm.
we had a customer from Wisconsin that bred to him every year, would haul
Hmm.
mares there, and when
But
he was
Lynn traded hay for breedings, didn't he?
well, he probably did. Yeah. At first, he got in through Campbell's. Jim Campbell and his son Scott Campbell.
Oh yeah.
They had a connection with him. I think Scott might have went and picked him up even from Wiescamps or something like that. So hopefully they're watching tonight and can say something. But we're going to show some of the salties right now. We are going to get into the Santees in a minute too. So if you guys are watching, hold on because we got a lot to cover yet. But Lynn Brett. The one thing about Lynn breeding to him, almost every colored POA he produced won the international. This was the
Mm-hmm.
first one, the Salty Britches array. Of course, she's pretty young there. She's 3. That's the year she won grand, but that was out at the World Show. And then this is a terrible picture, but this is Salty Crystal array. She was the same year, but she won the next year. Then they were both babies in '96 together. And then Solar Array, Salty Solar Array. Lynn kept him for years. I mean, a long time so he looked more like a hunter jumper pony. He was bigger, a little narrower. But you got to remember, he was breeding really small mares. Like, no offense to Lynn's program or anything, but some of these small mares you might not even have had, in your
Oh,
program.
I saw some there one time. I was there.
Right.
Mare's little. I don't know if they're Little Britch's daughters.
They were Little Britch's
little
granddaughter. Yeah, they were tiny, but hey, they crossed, and Lynn didn't have any problem with height, really. So this is Boots Array, Salty Boots Array. Again, she won. Pat showed most of these for him. And then, of course, Diamonds Array. When I moved to Oklahoma, Jeremy was waiting for me when I pulled in. And after he helped me unload all my stuff, my household stuff, and the horses first, of course. I had 2 horses. Then we went out to the pastures. And it had been a while since I'd been to Lynn's and never there with Jeremy. And I seen her in a pasture, and he told me who she was. And I'm like, well, she'd go win the small mares. And they went in 13. Jeremy and Julie conditioned her and showed her. And that might have been that colt you were talking about. That they showed. But anyway, yeah, she won the small mares, so that made. And then of course the last one he promoted was Salty Array. I actually named him by accident. He was naming him like a raisin. Jeremy can comment on it. Salty something, a raisin or something, and I didn't know. And Lynn was kind of sick at the time, and he didn't think he was registered, so I sent him in as Salty Array. And that's how he ended up getting his name. I just named him straight because Lynn was pretty proud of him. He was high on him, and he's the one he kept at the end. He never went grand, but he went reserve grand in '09. And yeah, he had some holes in him too. I don't want to say too much because there's people on here that got him maybe or his stuff, but he also had a lot of good features too. And he was an own son of Spanish Array. So, and then this is his full sister. This is Salty Array's full sister that Jeremy and Julie got. And Salty, I think Spanish Gala was her name. And then, of course, they raised those 2 several good babies, but that first really good mare is right there. She won at the Futurity. And Itzy, they call her, I think, J&J, Spanish-looking lady. Of course, they have a Wiescamp bred stallion they keep, too. Salty stole the look. We'll get into that a little bit. And then this is the full sister to the dark mare there. And I think this is Angel. I always liked her too. J&J Spanish looking Angel. So
Mm-hmm.
and you can just tell the bone structure, and you can tell there's something back there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can tell the breeding, that there's the quarter horse breeding in there. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Britches Array mare, of course, had Supreme. She produced Supreme Britches Array when bred to JK Supreme Scooter. So you had a shot of Wiescamp up there too, and then that's this mare here that Shannon down in Texas has done so well with, and then of course her son is the one they call River, and that's SLS Awesome All Night. So he's related
Oh
to
yeah.
Wiescamp fairly close too. So, and then TX's Chippin' Array, he's in a lot of pedigrees. He was one of the rare few spots Lynn would have.
Yeah.
Stevenson had him and did some good with him, and then Lynn got him and crossed him basically because of you. I think is why Lynn got him, is because Lynn bought a bunch of those good solid mares from you, like
Yeah.
Delilah and the Santee Delilah and some quarter horse mares and maybe even some amp mares, and then he needed a few spots, so he got this guy, and boy, he did some good, at the end of his life there. So
Uh-huh.
Lynn passed away probably 5 years after this photo was taken. So
See, I think those studs, it's better to have them out of a Spanish Ray daughter than having a son of Spanish Ray, because I believe the studs produce like their mothers.
right.
And so, like the sons of Spanish Ray out of those little POA mares didn't produce as good as those daughters, I don't think.
No, they didn't, because and
the
then
daughters passed on the Spanish Ray look more than
right.
and just like this I Fly First Class, he's like double Spanish Ray on the bottom, I think.
Right, and it's all the bottom.
He looks a lot built like Spanish Ray,
doesn't it? He's got a Wiescamp look to him, even though his dad was a Supreme Champion quarter horse. And he definitely. Of course, Jeremy and Julie's daughter had him since he was little, and now he just went to California, I believe. But he was bred by Norm Stevenson. He bred to Spanish Array as well. I think he bred some quarter horses and POAs both. But, Lynn always gets the credit for breeding to him, but there was some other people that did too. But Lynn's the one that had him shown. He took them and showed them. So Tracy said broodmare sire, which is kind of right, but it's more than just that, more than being a broodmare sire. What you're saying is the link, using the mare, is they produce a little better than, especially in POAs, because you got to cross that stallion then that's half quarter horse back down to a POA. You know what I mean? And yeah. So I always like this guy here. So and then there's old Skipper's King. Of course, he's timely. Born in 1954, but I wish I could have seen more pictures of him. I seen some in the Wiescamp book by Frank Holmes. There's several in there, but. He was always
that was one of the deals where a full brother and sister were both awesome.
Yeah.
Skipperette and him.
Yeah, and that's who we're looking at now, Skipperette.
I
like her
Santa
better.
Maria.
Yeah, well, I'm
Santa
a sucker
Maria
for 4 white socks.
Yeah, that Skipperette was way ahead of her time.
Yeah. Can you
and
imagine
their mother,
that?
Santa Maria, was one of those good plotted daughters. And then Miss Helen was too.
Yeah, and he got all those from those ranches where he was getting those mares and keeping as many as he could.
Philmont Ranch.
Yeah.
He'd bring a truckload home, pick out the best, sell off what he didn't want, go back and get more.
And then kept the ones he wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Skipper W, can you imagine breeding him he wasn't that bulky or anything, and this mare is not that bulky either. She is, but she's so pretty and correct. But then her full brother, he was built like the stud and she was built like the mare. So that was, okay. So I just threw them in there because not so much but they're in pedigrees too. I mean, what did he keep? Like 4 of her sons, didn't he? He kept pretty much everything she had, this mare.
A couple of bar mount sons.
Yeah.
Was it Cadet and Champ?
Yep, Cadet and Chant. Yep. And then there's a stallion I wish I could see more pictures of. I love Barmount, and I know he's got some things wrong with him, maybe his neck, but you only ever see that one colored picture of him. I've never seen another one of him, but he's always been my favorite. Or one of my favorites. And then all of a sudden I started seeing some of the stuff I like, and he's in the pedigree. You know what I mean? Of course, he bred him to some great mares too. He definitely bred him to some great mares, but he didn't have many bad mares. So let's see here. We're going to get to those pictures in a minute. So, all right, now I want to, we'll still talk about some of your stuff too, but we're going to talk about some of Gene's stuff because, like I said, he dedicated a lot of his POA stuff to Wiescamp. Wiescamp had a big impact on his POAs, and he promoted it that way too. So, this is Sierra Peak, and you sent me this picture, Bob. And
Yeah.
did you go pick her up, or how did that work out?
Well, the first load of mares I got from Hank, she was in that bunch.
Okay.
And I think he put her in just because she was so little. And she was tiny. What did Gene say? She was like 54.
Yeah, I've seen her several times out there. She wasn't that big.
Ruth Picoy came, and I don't know if Gene sent her or she did. Their stories don't match up. But anyway, she came and got her, and Gene ended up with her.
Okay.
And raised all those good sons and daughters. Right. Yeah.
I often heard that like Ruth got her from you, but then she was getting her for Gene, you know, or whatever.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I don't care. I wasn't really into POAs then. So
see, that's the thing. Yeah, if you would have been like now, you probably wouldn't have let her go. Yeah, you would have been crossing her. But yeah, when he crossed her to, okay, there's her sire, which Jeremy took that off a video, and talk about a hip. I know that's kind of distorted on here on this podcast, but his head might be a little bigger, but man, what a wow horse he is. So
he's the one that I heard from a good source that he was really by Silent String.
Okay. Which could Silent be because String the body
was a really good stud, but he had too much white, and Hank would use him.
Right.
You know,
and then he would keep some of that stuff.
Else.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, some of those other names, you might have said that off air, but some of those other names never got that well known because they, you know,
no,
they didn't do it. But yeah. So when Gene and Carolyn Carr got Sierra Peak, he bred her to Tough Plot. Of course, that's the stallion he was focusing on at the time. And Tough Plot, it's a grandson of Prince Fury, you know, an own son of Gold Prince. So he had his Wiescamp in him from there, and then he crossed him to that Wiescamp mare, and Admiral was his first one, and he won the futurity with Admiral, and then it was just kind of on. You know, Gene kind of went and got other Wiescamp mares, and then there was a few people over the years that bred to Tough Plot it. You know, usually Gene bred enough mares to him. You know, he didn't stand him that much, but he'd let some people breed to him, and they bred some Wiescamp type mares to him, like Tracy Porter did, and the people in Nebraska did. That the Pony Farm ended up with 4 of them. You know, Shameless and those 2 mares that won. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we're all from a Skip a Lindy Street.
Oh, they got that mother to them from me. She was a double bred Skip a Star mare.
Okay, that's where they got her.
I forget what her name was.
I got her.
Streak of Stars.
Streak of Stars by Skip a Lindy Streak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so see, you're tied into that story too. So here's Admiral as a baby, and then here's Admiral, and I know, you know, he's not maybe in show shape or anything, but don't judge that. He's out on a farm somewhere, but look at his head and his neck. You know what I mean? If he would have been fitted up for halter as a older horse, he would have did it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then his full brothers, Gene kind of camped him out to different places. Like Dwayne Strunk ended up with Encore, you know, because Gene just couldn't keep them all. You know, he had a lot of stallions over the years that he partnered with people because he wanted to keep that blood and preserve that blood. But there's Encore. And then Champ, I got to see Champ when he went to Germany. We picked him up with a group of mares, and Dad swung by my work, and I opened the back gate, and he was in the back. And he was old. You know, he wasn't old. He was young, but he was a nice-looking dude. You know, I seen him as a baby, of course, in Des Moines. That's Hank Frieder showing him, and he was always classy. And I know Gene always liked him. He compared him to a lot of Wiescamps. I remember him telling John Taylor on a video that he was comparing Champ to one of Taylor's stallions, you know, and I don't think Taylor was really liking it too well, you know what I mean? But some of these POAs, the way they were brought up, man, you know, they had the breeding in them. So, and then here's Review, and of course Santee Review sired a lot of good ones for the cars, and then Santee Delilah you ended up with, right? That's a daughter of Review's.
That's because his mother was Sierra Peak, and then she was out of a daughter of Summer's agent.
Right.
So that's more Wiescamp influence.
More Wiescamp, yep. So Yeah, Summer's agent, we'll see pictures of him too. He was a good looking stallion. You know, I wanted to get this story in there. You got way more stories than me, but first time I went out to Gene's, I seen Showmount, and he was a beautiful stallion. He was a Wiescamp stallion, Palomino, but he wasn't very big, wasn't very tall. Then I seen Skippin' Choice, and Skippin' Choice was a little nicer than Showmount, I thought. And then I seen Something Classic at your place, and you know he was just a little more modern, maybe, or a little bigger than Skippin' Choice. And then I seen Summer's agent, and he was like another step. You know what I mean? He was nice.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking Something Classic, and of course he was 18 when I seen him at your place. But when
I
seen
think Summer's agent's mother was similar bred to Something Classic.
yeah, you're right. And man, that just, you know, you could just, if you're a horse person, pedigree person like you are, you know, like people like Jeremy and stuff and me, and studied the Wiescamp stuff, you could look at a picture of Summer's agent and say, is he Wiescamp? You know what I mean? But a lot of them are that way. You know, a lot of yours are that way for sure. I think Skipper Remnant's that way. When I see him, I say he's Wiescamp.
He would have fit in right at Hank's.
Yeah. So this is Delilah here, and of course you raised the Smooth Agent, right?
That was her first baby, and then she's had a bunch of good ones.
And then she went down
Terry
to
Wilson's got her.
She went to Lynn's, right?
Yeah.
But Lynn was getting older. I think if he would have been 10 years younger, he would have, you know, produced some more stuff out of her. But then she come back up, and now Terry Thorson has her, and his good fillies he's had the last few years. Well, that colt this year, too, is a good-looking colt. But Dealer's Ginger Snap and then Dealer's Tell You What is both out of her. So, yeah. Terry's a racehorse guy, you know, and he always calls her a blue hen mare. And some of these POA people don't know what he's talking about, you know. But, I mean, that means she's a good producer. You know, she's a great producer. But she's a pretty mare, too. So, you know, Gene thought she was a quarter horse when he got her in that group. He probably knew she was Santee Delilah, but he'd forgotten. He just thought she was a quarter horse because she looked so much like one. There's Ginger Snap that I was just talking about. She's a gorgeous mare. Of course, she has Wiescamp on the top side, and you had his Dirty Dealer, and then Terry got him from you, and Terry still has him. And we can talk about him a little bit, too, in a while. But that's a beautiful mare there. Just a great looking mare. And then of course there's the full sister, a different color, you know, got the bay, a little more white on her, but she was reserve in both of the big futurities in 23. Select Sire and the BCF was reserve. And then this year she came back, and there she is just a few months ago, winning the big check there at the Select Sire. So with, of course, Sammy Bruns showing her, and there's Terry. So he's doing well with Dealer across him. He's got some nice mares.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. She's old Delilah's one of them. So let's see. There's Smooth Agent again. That's a good picture of Smooth Agent. Yeah. I always liked him better than your other horse, but maybe it's just me. I've never seen him in person. I've seen the other one in person, but not aged. But Silent.
You mean Silent Champ?
Yeah, I like Smooth Agent better, but I mean
Smoothie's prettier, and he's not as heavy muscled as Sham, but he throws a lot of muscle.
He throws a lot of muscle, yeah, and I like that hip. He's what I call pretty hipped. You know what I mean? Maybe he's not the biggest hip, but it's pretty big. But it's just, you know, and then his head is pretty cool. I mean, the other view of his head's better than this profile view. But, you know, and them are stallion necks. You don't have throat latches and California sweats on them. You know what I mean? 24 hours a day. They're out there in the grass and in the mud, and they're out there breeding and living, you know. But his head looks a lot better in this picture, so I like that picture of him. And he's got that beautiful color.
They all got the jaws.
They got the jaws.
The Wiescamp jaws, little ears, big jaws.
That's one thing
some of those studs of Hank's had huge jaws.
You didn't even have to interview the man to know that's one of the things he loved was the huge jaws and the way he line bred his horses to keep getting that, you know. And and we're not even delving into what he did, you know, with all his line breeding. And I know you called the female lines and the different, you know, how they sexed them and stuff. And, you know, that's a whole book, you know what I mean, to talk about all that. But this is Delilah's isn't this her grandma, or is this her
Mm,
mom?
mother, I think.
Mother, yeah. This is Saint
Yeah.
Monita, or is that her name?
Yeah.
That's the
Saint
summer
Juanita.
agent, and you took this picture, right?
Mm,
I think you did.
I don't know. Maybe I did.
She, of course, and you can see, she's heavy and full and probably
Well,
getting up in
yeah,
years there.
I went with Dick Bushman. I told him about those mares that cars were selling, and he went and bought all those Summers Agent daughters, 3 or 4, and this
Okay.
mare was one of them. And now she's out with Shane Truby out in Durango, Colorado.
Okay. All right.
I think she's still having babies.
And for the show people watching, you got to look at the shoulder and the neck and the croup and everything, because these are mamas out in the, it's fall there, winter, you know what I mean. So you can't judge them all the time by their shape, because their bellies and their backs start sagging a little bit. But when if she was pictures as a 2-year-old, but you can tell it's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can tell. And her sire, there's her sire. So Summer's age. And I remember Gene showing me this picture at a Pizza Hut. We were eating at a Pizza Hut in, I think, Gordyville. And he said, I want to show you a picture of my new Wiescamp stallion I just got. And this is the picture he showed me. And obviously that's at a truck stop or somewhere. And yeah, and then I'm pretty sure I seen him out at Gene's. I know I did. But like I say, he was just the next step up. Of course, he was more modern, too. More modern than, just older than like Skipping Choice and stuff. So
I think is his sire Saint Agent.
I think so.
He was a racehorse. Larry Wilcox, I think, that raised him, said he was. People commented that he was the best looking fast horse.
Right, and he was by Saint Dancer, who had that big shoulder.
Best confirmation.
Yeah.
Racehorse that they'd seen.
I've never seen Saint Agent's picture or anything, and it's not on All Breed. A lot of these pictures are like this picture's on All Breed, but I actually have this photo in my collection from Gene. But a lot of these are on All Breed, and of course Saint Dancer is on there, and then his picture's in the Frank Holmes story. But he used Double Dancer of Merrick's and bred it to his 3 bars cross, with rook and string and the Spanish and all that. So he produced another good line. And Scottish is another stallion that I always liked, but he wasn't perfect. You know what I mean? He was Nick W. and Scottish. They were really slightly made, but they were so pretty. And I know that's why he kept them too, because they were pretty. And he's in the pedigree here. And then, of course, all those Summers, I think the Wilcox had something to do with those, Larry. And then Skip a Streak, of course. I think that was
Go back to Summer's Trick was a really good
Summer's Trick.
Mare. Something Classic's mother.
Yeah.
And then the Summer's Trick's mother, they say, was by Silent String.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, that's probably why the Trick, Silent Trick, they do coded names and stuff.
They do coded names.
Yeah.
Let's see, I have something classic now. Yeah, they say Summer's Trick, they have it down as Skipper's King and Summer Streak, but Skipper's King would have been...
Summer Streak was by Silent String, I think.
That's the one, okay. Yeah, and they have Skip a Streak down here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that could be... And then you go that same Summer, Summer Streak is the same mare that we were just talking about. So, yep, Summer Streak is the Grand Dam to Summer's Agent. So, yep, you can tell it in them good horses, the pedigrees run alike.
Yeah.
So here's Senator. We seen that picture of Admiral earlier, and I said, if he was conditioned and stuff, he'd look a lot different. Well, here's his 3-year-old son. He had a Grand Champion gelding in Cowboy Brass, and then he had a Grand Champion stallion in Santee Senator. And, of course, that's Paul Filson. He conditioned him and had him in Minnesota, but he was bred by Gene and Carolyn. And, he's one of the best-built POAs there's been. He was just a great look. And you can tell that Sierra Peak in him, I think, anyway. So, definitely, yeah. So, and then, of course, he raised some, he produced some good babies, too.
Well, was Santee Tough Joe by him?
I think, Santee Tough Joe. Yeah, he's that Palomino. I showed pictures of him on the John Anderson podcast, I believe. And then, of course, Santee Miss McHugh, Fred and Jan Netz showed her all over the country, and she became a national champion as a supreme champion. She's the full sister to Tough Joe. But Tough Joe looked more like a horse, and Miss McHugh was a little squattier, you know what I mean? And she was tough to get around and halter, though. I mean, especially as a yearling and a 2-year-old, she was as wide as she was tall. But her mother was kind of a short quarter mare, you know. So they bred him to a quarter mare to get them crosses. So that was a lot of horse, you know what I mean? And it showed up too. They were nice horses. So she's in the Hall of Fame. Santee Miss McHugh is. So like I say, Nets has showed her pretty much exclusively. So went down the road showing her. But all right, so all that stuff was based off of this mare here, this little mare Hank threw in the trailer. Kind of eerie story, like you got that Dragonins mare all the 30 years later, or 40.
Yeah.
So anytime you want to jump in with a story, Bob, go ahead. I'm going to be looking for some pictures now. So
well, Skip Intense's mother was kind of the same way, Smooth Chime. She was like a 3-year-old I got in the bunch, and she was little.
Okay.
And that's when I had Prince Fury Hardship. She was in foal to him. So the next year, Skip Intense was born, and so he could be POA.
Right. Right. And that's how him and Sunbright Prince, they were both that way, right?
Sunbright Prince was out of a spit image.
Yeah, but I mean, they were both double registered, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I thought there's Prince Plotted. We'll show him. I was trying to find a picture, but people seen, when Amber was on here, they seen Skip Intense, but I know I have Skip Intense on here a lot too. So, did we talk about Prince Plotted much? We talked about Prince Fury, but you and I talked about Prince Plotted off the air a little bit, but go ahead and kind of tell that story about Carl Miles, if you want to.
Oh, and Gerald Dickinson's book, Horn Stew, he tells about how Carl Miles came out and bought Prince Plotted, and he wanted mares to go with him, and he had a group priced a certain amount, and he said, well, he'd take them, and then he said, do you have any more? He had another group sorted out, higher priced. He'd take those. Then another group, way high priced, and he took them all. And and Prince Plotted worked so good on those Wiescamp mares, but then when he's changed hands and stuff, it seemed like he didn't produce as good as he did on the Wiescamp mares, I don't think.
Right.
But they didn't have that look. Really, there was Prince David, Prince Edward, Prince Fury, all of those, Princess Jim.
Right. Yeah, but the ones that were, like Prince Fury, his mother was a Spanish Nick daughter, right? And then a Skipper W granddaughter, Spanish Fury. So, I mean, that was definitely, that helped that on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Prince Plotted would have ever been the sire he was if it wasn't for Wiescamp. It's ironic, Wieskamp's the breeder of him from the app program, but I mean, the quarter horse side, and they would almost everybody says that too, that's, But, so there's a son of Prince Plotted, Prince's St. Simon, and I don't think he's that well known in POA circles, but he has done a lot. Ruth Pecoy had his fancy feather, and she was an own daughter of his. And then, of course, that's where his fancy carbine came from when she bred her to Santee carbine. And then Dual Plotted, we just seen a picture of him a minute ago, and he became famous. And you have a relative of his, right? That Campbell Brown mare. Campbell Brown.
Yeah.
She's related to Dual Plotted and Gold Chips, of course, through Gold Prince. But then, but there was three. This Prince of St. Simon produced 3 foals: St. Andy himself, his fancy feather, and St. Thomas. Well, he produced more than that, but those 3 foals all had an impact on POA through different channels. St. Thomas is the sire of St. Nick's Snowstorm, and he's the grandsire of his Dirty Dealer. So that's cool. And then St. Andy himself is the sire of Plotted's High Bar, who was actually a Klein's horse. And Ruth Pecoy changed his name, renamed him Plotted's High Bar. He won Grand in 1980. And then Klein's Bold Legend, a famous POA, great Hall of Famer. He's by St. Andy himself. So just that one line of Appaloosas, which the people never had any plans to do anything in POAs with, they all had a big impact in POAs. And, of course, that was a son of Prince Plotted. And then some of the other, like Prince Fury's grandson, FS Spanish Bar. Remember him, that leopard? He was a Bar's Fury son. He had FS Sugar Bar Joe for burgers. And Prince Chicaro, he's a Prince Charles son. He made an impact in POAs through the Suncrest.
Well, Kid Plotted was
yep, and that's
bred that way.
Yep.
Something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, Kid Plotted was by Prince Charles. Yep, and out of a Prince Plotted mare. So
Prince, he was like double bred.
Yeah, they bred 2 Prince Plaudits. But Prince Charles' secret is his mom was Show Maria, who's a showboat in Santa Maria again. You know, that good mare. So that that Show Maria had to be a heck of a mare in '52. She was in between those 2 we showed the pictures of. You know, she would have been because one was in 50 and one was in 54, and then she ends up the mother to this App stud, Prince Charles. Yeah, so he had a big impact, because then Kid Plotted, of course, had Plottit's Crusader, and then Kid Plotted Jr., Pokey Plotted. Then, of course, there's all kinds of Bobby Sox Plotted, the Shingletons, and all kinds of different Plottits over the years. And the Victors did a lot with the Kid Plotted stuff. Didn't Howard Victor go to the Miles dispersal sale to get Kid Plotted? Yeah. So that was cool. I don't know if you ever went to Ray Pizza's place much, but he had an Appaloosa stallion for a minute named Bar Rockadot. He was a leopard horse, and Sugar Bar's Dottie was a result of his. She became a Supreme Champion. Then Dottie Rockabar, and there's a few things. And anyway, he's a Prince Rocky grandson, so he goes back to Prince. Yeah, Plottit's Bar Skip. Of course, Ruth Pecoy, if she smelled an Appaloosa stallion under 15 hands, you know what I mean? In a couple 100-mile radius, she hooked up the trailer, and then Burley went and got them. I mean, they just did. And they helped POAs a lot. They would use it for a little while and then sell them, you know. And then even later, Rated Royal, he's related too, Rated Royal. But let's see, Sugar Bar's Plotted, he's related to Red Plotted. Signal Fire was an early Red Plotted son, I think the same year as Prince Plotted. And Sugar Bar's Plotted had a POA. Plotted Caballero was out in California, I believe. He's a Plotted's Red son. Then let's see, there's High Bar. Prince Shasta produced some POAs. KS's JW White Lighting goes back to Prince Plotted. And let's see, Plotted's Bold Son. A lot of people watching today will hear him. He actually goes back to Miss Silver Smoke, who's a Holy Smoke daughter. Okay, and then St. Avalon, so I'm on to her now. So I got to find pictures, but she was a mare that Bagwell's had. I don't know where they got her from, if they got her through the sale or when they got her.
Yeah, I don't know where she came from.
Right, but she was a Smooth Sill daughter, and then, of course, Jackie Guthrie ended up with her. But they raised some really nice buns out of her, bred her to JK Supreme Scooter, and, of course, Bunbelievable went grand, and then he had a full sister that did really well. She went reserve grand, and adorable buns. Let's see here. I don't think it's in that group of photos. I got too many photos, Bob. I put a lot of photos on in between the bread and the car pictures and.
Hank had a Appaloosa dispersal sale right at his place, and there wasn't many people there, and he was just running up the prices, and they didn't really sell. A couple people got some bought, but once I was out there with somebody and we were snooping around in one of the barns, here was this pile of sale catalogs from his Appaloosa sale. And so we took some of them.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know, he ended up selling a whole bunch to some guy in Colorado, and I ended up getting a app mare that was branded Wiescamp.
Oh, did you?
And I forget what her name was. She looked just like the Court Horse, really nice mare.
Did she?
But he had some good ones.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
and he didn't have Prince Plotted. His lines had to come through King Plotted or Red Plotted and
Red Plotted. Yeah. Well, he sold Prince Plotted and he sold King Plotted. They both went out and got. But then he had all those sons of Red Plotted. Yeah.
That he had Plotted Scarlet and some different ones, but he kept it going for a while and then sold them all out.
I think he sold out about in '83. Yeah. You don't happen to have one of those, an extra one of those, do you?
No, I don't.
Oh
I don't
man.
know if I got more than one. I don't even know where it's at. But no, there was a whole stack of them.
Remind me to get to Santee Plotted Nan too. I want to talk about her because you were
Oh
talking
yeah.
about apps, and Gene picked up that mare, but we'll talk about her. But here's RBR Unbelievable. So his mother was, I believe she was branded. She was a Wiescamp mare, I know. Not
Uh-huh.
Wiescamp bred, as some people say. She was actually a pure Wiescamp. So smooth sill, and then a St. Scottish daughter was her mother. So, and then Jackie
Uh-huh.
raised a couple kiddo bounce babies out of her. One won the international JBJ Smooth Kid. So that was one of
Uh-huh.
them. And then, okay, so here's a tough plotted daughter, Santee Lacey Star. She wasn't bred by Gene, but they bred that quarter mare that you had, you said, and sold to those people in Nebraska. What was her last
Yeah.
name? Michelson's or something? Nicholson? Something like that. Am
I
I
don't even
close?
remember.
Okay. Well, they ended up selling all of them to Barb and Susie, to the pony farm, and they
Uh-huh.
all did good. And this mare went grand, of course. And old Copper Sundance, I know you've probably heard of him. He's 30 some years old, almost 40. He was born in
Really?
85. Yeah, he goes back to Wiescamp through the Plotted line. Yeah, maybe
Huh.
even Red Plotted. So, um, and I don't have pictures. Let's see. Let me get to a picture that. Okay, there's I'm a Silver Royal. I'm a Silver Royal goes back to Wiescamp through, and you probably know that
Huh.
pedigree. Let's see. Let me get his. Okay, so Super One is in his pedigree by Super Cash and out
Oh
of
yeah.
Scotch Lady. Yeah. Do you remember the
Huh.
horse Big Shot Norther or the Blue Norther? Those quarter horses, anyway. The Blue
No.
Norther bred My Music One and got the grandsire to I'm a Silver Royal. Dean ended up with Big Ruby, a quarter mare, and
Huh.
that's the bottom side of this horse, all quarter horse. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, there's dual plotted again as a baby. So Gene Carr actually showed dual plotted at the 1984 International Show for Ruth Pecoy, and he won.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's in. I have the copy of Gene's judge's profile when he was a young Appaloosa judge. Well, I mean he was in his 40s, and they did a story of him in the App Journal, and he
Yeah.
talked about people getting favors and then people getting hurt by judges, and he told Ruth, "You don't want me showing him at the futurity." And he ended up
Oh yeah.
taking seventh at the futurity. Well, of course, we know the futurity is tougher than the show usually anyway, but of course, there was
Huh.
dual plotted when he got a little older. And he ended up being, there's Plottett's high bar that I alluded to earlier. There's Copper Sundance. So Copper Sundance goes back to that Plottett's bar skip that Ruth Pecoy found in Apstud. Here's one from your breeding here, Miss I'm a Cool Dancer. Are you the breeder?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was out of a quarter Sunbright Prince and a quarter mare that was cool skip. Sure enough, skip. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Yeah, I threw her in there. She was a good looking mare. Of course, she's in the Larry Myers story. If you guys
Yeah.
go back and watch the Larry Myers story, she's in there. So I might say this name wrong, but it's Skip and then ATO. I always said Skipato, but it might be Skipatu. I don't know how
Uh-huh.
you pronounce that. But says he's a 54. But Mark's mother, you talked about Mark Borjan earlier, but she had a daughter of his named, she's a Skipato. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that mare, let me tell you, when bred to Hive Avatar, she produced some, great POAs, and that was Skipper W granddaughter, she was. And I think
Mm-hmm.
Marlene even showed that mare when she was younger, and then she kept her and bred her to POAs and done up Sensational, Avatar Skip a Star, the 4th edition, Avatar's Peppy Perfection. They're all full siblings out of that mare. So, and that's close up Wiescamp that a lot of people don't realize, I think. And then
Yeah.
Senator Shy, I know Skip Shy, Skipper's King, Senator's on
Yeah.
the bottom, but he's in some pedigrees, Senator Shy. Of course, I think he was the sire to Miss Margaret, so Victor's had that Miss Margaret little lap mare, yeah. But Skip's Brick, I know he's not bred by Wiescamp, but he's strong Wiescamp, especially the top side, Skipper King grandson, and he's in Rough and Tough, and he's in some other. JBJ's Firestorm is the sire to his Dirty Dealer. He has Skip Brick in him, so Let's see. It's funny, it says on all breeds, Skipper Saga, a gray gelding, 1979 quarter horse, but he actually sired a POA. Skipper Saga did. So, then of course, Rockstar has Skipper W in him, top and bottom. Skipper's Lad, of course, Skipper Star. All right. So anything, let's see, Mr. Respect, he's a POA. That Grant, was an Appaloosa, but he's related, of course, Fair Charles and Prince Charles again. But he also has Barmount in him. Barmount bred Skipper's Maid and got Skip's Barmaid. Then she was bred to 7 Blue Rock, not a Wiescamp, and got a mare that was bred to Fair Charles. So probably a mare that went out to California, I would guess. And Jeanette Aarons, she sent me pictures of Jay, Skip, and Star. I don't know if I got him on there, but he was a Toy Star son. She bred to Toy Star a couple times and got POAs.
And he was the sire to Cordero.
He was the sire of Cordero, He was
she was right out there by Hosmer's, I think.
Yeah, she was. And let me tell you, he was a solid horse, but nowadays he probably would have had, would have been tested. But he is, I'll try to get a picture of him on this week. He is a good-looking horse. So, and she raised a couple nice Toy Stars. Of course, that goes back to Skipper's Lad and Spanish Ruler. Okay, let's see. So Scarlett's Rut Butler was bred by Gene Carr, and he was tough plotted. And then Skip a Scarlet was a mare he picked up, a POA mare, but she went back to Skip a Nick, who was a Sure Skippa son.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sure Skippa. So the mare I wanted to mention is, let's see, for Jean again, is Santee Plotted Nan. And she plays a big part of history because Jean said that she was the only POA bred by Hank Wiescamp because she was from his app program. So he found her in the 80s. And that's about the time he was picking up a lot of mares like Santee Wee Marie. He hard shipped her, and then not long after that he got some nice quarter mares too, like Sundance Julie, and she wasn't Wiescamp, and then Sierra Peak. But anyway, Plotted Nan, a couple of her sons went on to do stuff. Santee Saladin, of course, Palomino out in California, he became famous and a good sire. And then Santee Sailor was John Anderson's stud, and he was the sire to J.K. Supreme Scooter, who had all the RBRs. So that's the connection there. So, Santee Plotted Nan helped Gene's program through the Wiescamp program too. So let's see. And then of course Super Son, he was Wiescamp breeding, and Gene got him from Coulter's and really kind of lengthened his career as a sire. So for sure.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was Wiescamp till I saw his pedigree.
Super Son,
Yeah,
he's got it. He's line bred really strong, or inbred, you know what I mean? That's another thing about Wiescamp. He had so much opportunity to, he had so many horses, but he line bred a lot better and a lot further away because he could, he had the infrastructure. Some people just can't, you know what I mean? They don't have enough space. So there's Rockstar, of course, famous Appaloosa, and he made a mark in POAs too. Rockstar was bred to some POAs, and then of course some more hard shipped. But Larry Koss bred to his stuff, and then Rated Royal, Ruth Picoy found him a Royal Exhibit son, but he on the bottom side he goes back to Wiescamp. So I don't know if I'll find his pedigree now, but it's not that big a deal. But I have about 50 pedigrees in front of me. Well, that's what I like to do. So there's Rated Royal. I got him. So Skipper Rowe is his grandsire. So in 1970, Skip Barrett, and there you go again. Barmount, we talked about that. You talked about Barmount bred Skipperette.
Yeah.
And one of those studs was Skip Barrett, and then she bred a Spot Cash daughter and got Skipper Rowe. Then he bred a non-Wiescamp. He must have got rid of Skipper Rowe. And Kate's Judy is a quarter horse mother of Rated Royal. So little things like that people don't realize, you know what I mean? I know a few people intensely bred Wiescamp like you and Gene and some other people have, but you guys were really the strong ones that bred him. But that bloodline just went out there. It spread all across POAs. Like there's Rough and Tough. So his son Rough and Zip is still having winners, and it's in him. And there's that JK horse, you're the breeder of him, Spanish Gent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody seen his picture earlier and today, and they fell in love with him. Somebody, I forget who it was, but they're like, "Wow," I like putting
Yeah,
pictures.
he's out of a little sorrel mare, quarter mare.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah,
And then who's his sire?
smooth agent.
Smooth agent. Okay,
Yeah,
smooth agent, and he didn't get
so
much
he's
of a
got a
face, man.
lot of Wiescamp. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and he's bay. Yeah, John's got, I think he said 4 or 5 mares in foal to him, so he come on here and said
Oh,
something
they ought to
really.
really be uh, performance
Yeah,
horses with all that skip-a-barb in there.
and John, every mare he has is related to Wiescamp. Every mare he has. Yeah, so he's another one. Of course, he got Santee breeding, in his POAs, but his quarter horses too. He's raised quarter horses, and they're all Wiescamp bred. So
He's got a good, sure enough, Cordero daughter.
does he? Okay.
Dirty Duratio, I think's her name.
Okay.
She's one. We had that windstorm that year. They called it Duratio. Way strong, straight winds. And that one pasture, the mares must have been all crammed up against the fence, and I found babies on the other side of the fence,
Oh wow.
all cut up. They were all cut up under their necks and stuff, and she was kind of bad, and they all healed up, but I just called her Dirty Duratio.
The only reason I know about Duratio is because there's an extreme storm show on or whatever, and the second episode was about that storm in Iowa.
Really?
Yeah, and Duratio, and we never knew, my wife and I, Monica, we didn't know what a Duratio was. We know tornadoes in Oklahoma, but a Duratio, man, that was something else.
Yeah.
John said, "Yes, I do. Thanks for selling her to me." So here I'm just flipping through some random Wiescamp pictures. I mean, there's the sire to Salty. Gotta look. I don't know if we touched on Salty. Gotta look. He was an Appaloosa name. He's got the look. And he was by this Wiescamp quarter horse stallion and then a Appaloosa Wiescamp mare, right? And and Lynn hauled some hay to some people and seen not this horse, but his son. And then he traded some hay for him for sure. That's how that story goes. But, he was an own son of this Skip Sita horse. There's something classic. You had him for quite a while. So I told you I was going to put you on the spot earlier, so I'm going to do it now. Bob, you've been a great guest. You're doing really good. Wiescamp, we're not even scratching the surface on your knowledge of Wiescamp. I know that we're at like 0.1%, but what's some of your favorite? I know the studs get all the credit, but what's some of your favorite Wiescamp horses over the years? Not necessarily ones you might have had either, just anything.
Oh yeah,
anything.
All those Skipper's King crosses were really good. That stud called Skip Oak.
Yeah,
he was a big Palomino, and Saint Limit was neat. He was kind of like race bred. It's like triple bred 3 bars, a little different than Hank's. It's like he was trying to raise his own Impressive.
And he had a head like Impressive, I thought.
And yeah, I mean, real.
I got a picture of him somewhere on here. I don't know if he's
keen-headed, and yeah.
If we could find him, that would be cool.
No, if you ever got to go to Hank's and saw those groups of mares, they were just awesome because they all just look the same. But they're all different colors. But they, like I got videos of them, like 40 mares, and they're all the same.
Right.
They're just all different colors.
Just cookie cutters. He line bred
and then,
so much.
St. Sheila, he was really something. There was an article in the App Journal on Hank and his apps, and they had a picture that he was a stud, but he's named St. Sheila.
Right.
And he's really something. Joe Taylor. He rode on the pedigree, best horse ever seen by Joe Taylor.
Did he really?
And he was always too fat, so he looked like he had a thick neck. But he was older and not very good shape then, but he still looked really good.
I don't know if people will be able to see it here, and hopefully I don't get in trouble with this. Is before Western Horseman. Well, I guess they did have it, but there's a picture of him in the Frank Holmes book. So it's hard to see it there, but he's And then that Silent String or whatever, you can tell he's related to Silent String, that, you know, that horse from the 50s or whatever. I mean, they just look alike.
Sheila on the bottom right, yeah.
Yeah, St. Sheila on the bottom. Yeah,
I've got some pictures of him, and like his head is the white in his face and his forehead matched perfectly with muscles, you know, in his forehead, and
right.
He was neat.
There again, that impressive bred horse, Zip to Impress. You know, he was in Nebraska. My dad saw him in person, but when we watched a video of that horse, of St. Sheila, we thought his head looked a lot like that because he was all jaws and then just a pug nose. You know,
yeah.
It was just awesome looking. I've saw a lot of videos of him, and he's cool. Here's Barmount. I always liked him, but again, you know, in this picture, he looks like he don't have a neck, but he sure used him a lot. You know, he crossed him on some of his. He bred him to Skipperette. That tells you, oh, I gotta put him up here. There he is.
Well, St. Sheila was a paint crop out too, and everybody tried to figure out which ones were really St. Sheilas, you know, that were registered not that way.
Right.
But like at them dispersals, them Sheila daughters brought 30,000 a piece. A lot of them did.
Because people knew.
And as paints, yeah.
Yeah. And look, I don't know if they were able to keep them long enough, but then the rules changed, and they could register some of them, you know, if they didn't have too much paint in them, I guess. But
yeah,
there's Nick W.
It's the old Fred breeding, you know.
Right.
Old Fred was like Palomino with high whites, and I got a dealer daughter that's out of a stellar daughter, and she's had 2 Loud Overo, supposed to be POAs, but so the Bridey's brother and the Wiescamp all going back to Plaudette just comes out.
Well, that Plaudette mare, if you guys ever get a chance to read her story, and the old Fred story, they're both cool stories, and you can find them in the Western Horseman books. But Plaudette was just basically a paint mare that had some spots on her too, and so Appaloosa would come out, but Paintalusa, and Bright Eyes brother, of course.
Bright Eyes brother and Madden's Bright Eyes.
And she was a straight quarter horse, Madden's Bright Eyes, or was she? You know, I mean, she wasn't. She was a solid animal. Of course, a lot of old time horse people think, you know, horses had color on them, you know, back in like we're going to get kind of deep now, but like on the cave paintings and stuff, there were a lot of leopards and a lot of horses that were spotted. And then it's like, well, maybe some of these other horses were just solid, you know? So,
yeah.
So of your stuff, putting you really on the spot now, but I know you were pretty fond of something classic, but what's some of your favorite ones you've had over the years, or is it too hard to put a label on one?
Oh, classic was good, but that sure enough Cordero, he really did a good job.
He did a good job.
And more real ultra modern look. And I love Prince Fury too, but you know.
I wish you would have got him when he was younger. So you'd mentioned that to me when you know, Dave and Kim from Sheldax, when they got him, you know, then they used him a little bit, but they had a lot of competition out there. They had 3 or 4 other studs. But if he would have went into POAs about 4 or 5 years earlier, that probably would have helped him more and the POAs more, you know, because
I wonder why. I wonder if they got tired of POA people bugging him, wanting to breed to him.
Oh, I know Bud Campbell did. You know, he bugged.
They just kind of wanted him out of the scene and, you know, sent him up there in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Yeah, he went up to Minnesota in the middle of nowhere, and Bud was hauling hay to those people, and that's how he kind of got into it. You know, he'd haul them a load of hay, and they'd offer to pay him or whatever, and he'd say, no, that's all right, and then he'd just collect it on stud fees, you know, and he had stud fees for years, and he raised some really nice fillies, and then that Fury's Rambo horse I think he went to Canada, didn't he? That he raised.
I never knew where he went.
Yeah, I think he went to Canada. Here's Spanish Nick. I had him on here for a long time, and then I just flipped him off. But here he is again. He was a great broodmare sire. Yeah, great broodmare sire. And of course, he come along about the same time as Skipper W, and Skipper W got all the credit. But you can see his build still today and a lot of the stuff, I think. So, All right. Well, it's 8:07. I'm not hoarse yet, but I'm getting there, and you've done a good job. You're kind of a mild mannered guy, Bob, so I had to really turn up the speakers on you, but you did a great
Oh
job.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. Hey, I've had some people on here yelling, so I had to turn it
Oh yeah.
down. So, like I say again, we didn't even scratch the surface, but I think we did in POAs for sure. We let people
Yeah.
know about the Wiescamp impact on POAs. And if I didn't mention your program or something to do with Wiescamp, I apologize. We can't get everything in here. So I just see where Jess wrote Michaels. So, yep, that was the people that had that mare, that
Yeah.
Skip a
Yep.
Lindy streak mare. So, all right, Bob, I want to
Yeah. I
thank
was
you.
down in
Go ahead.
Texas looking at horses, and they had mother to that streak of stars, and she was like a world champion skip a star daughter or something.
Okay.
And they bred her to skip a Lindy streak, and she had this filly that was little, and so I just bought her cheap, and so she made her rounds and ended up raising some good POAs.
Right. And I remember Gene telling me when those people were breeding her, he said, "Boy, tough plot. It's really crossing with the Wiescamp mares." Or he would say the
Yeah.
Skipper W mares, and that's when Sierra Peak he had her, and then of course he got some other, mares too. He had daughters of Star Tracking, Skip Snoches, Splash Bar, and then other people bred Skipador. And then I don't know who Skippin' Shorty is, but that's who Tracy has. Her pedigree's not on all breed, but that's where Stop and Stare come from. PPP Stop and
Well,
Stare.
that's what I did with his Dirty Dealer. I always wanted to get a good few spot and put on quarter mares, and so most of those were Wiescamp quarter mares, and so I got a lot of dollars a dealer out of the mares, and they really produce good.
Right.
And they're nice mares.
Then you got a herd of Palomino mares, don't you? That came from your
Well, yeah,
friend?
I did
Yeah.
a while back. I raised that Sheer Classic and sold him to Ann Bowman, and you never seen so many nice little Palomino mares in a bunch. I took Lynn Puffenbarger up there, and he just
I bet he fell in love with it.
And that little stud had so many nice little Palomino mares, and so he got old. One day she called me and says, "Do you want Sheer Classic? Why don't you come and get him before I lose him?" And so I went and got him, and he was poor shape, pasture breeding. And I got his teeth worked on, got him fat, and bred some mares. I only got, two fillies, two daughters out of him. And then sent him to Shane Truby in Colorado, and he died out there.
Okay.
Same deal with Something Classic. Mike Gerbaugh's out there at Aspen wanted him so bad, and so I was going to sell him to him. He was out there a couple of weeks and dropped dead.
Oh, wow.
Couldn't handle the high altitude.
Air, yeah. And
Yeah.
Ironic because that's where they come from. So
Yeah,
that Iowa the flat plains in Iowa, it's good for raising
they're not
horses.
used to it.
They're not used to that height, yeah. I was going to go through some of these pictures. I don't know if I showed Monty's Award. There's Monty's Award. There he is again. There's that mare you were talking about when she was older, and you hauled her to Spanish Array. And, she's Monty's Award's grandma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Skipping Tents as a baby. That's one of the pictures I was looking for. So, who's holding him there? Is that you as a young man?
Me, yeah.
Hey, I gotta rib you a little bit. The interview's almost over. No, you look good there.
I have shown before, yeah.
I know you have. You're known as a breeder and a pedigree guy, so but you've shown before, so yeah. He was a good baby. He won the Iowa
was at the
Futurity.
Marshalltown, Marshalltown Fairgrounds. And
yeah.
actually, Carmen Hoffman was a judge.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, she's an POA app person both, but she grew up in apps, and then had success in POAs too. Let's see what else we're gonna find in. Oh, here's some of the Prince Fury daughters that. So I always call the stud Prince Fury. I know somebody at home might say, well, his technical name was Princess Fury, but
his papers say Prince's Fury, but Money Creek always advertised him as Prince Fury.
Prince Fury, that's what it should have been, yeah. And there's Campbell Zippo's mother. That's Campbell's Ms. Flirt, and that's Chuck Shackleton. Of course, him and Maxine are known now for all the Clay Hills, but this is one of the early mares they got from Bud. And this was became Zippo's mother, and then he didn't need her, so she went to Shackleton's, but she's a Prince Fury daughter. And then of course that other one sold for like $7 or $8 at the sale, this one, and she's been in parades and huge parades and all over the country. So that's Campbell's Ms. Fury. So yeah. And then let's see there's Campbell Zippo. This is a cool picture here. These two horses are both Wiescamp POAs, but they're from different sides. You got Gold Chips is a famous son of Gold Prince. He's what really kind of got Gold Prince going, and then of course then just the POA mare, Miss Hydeck, and then you have Campbell Zippo's son over there, young. He's young in this picture, Campbell's Dreamcatcher, and of course he went on there. He is as a grand champion in 2001. He's a stunning horse. Bud loved the dark with the big blankets and spots, and he finally got it in this guy. But he didn't, he sold him, and then Nicky made him real famous, but he sold him as a baby. Here's Freckles Fury. He was a grandson of...
I remember seeing him at Bud's. He had a huge rear end.
These pictures...
It doesn't look like it there, but
no,
man...
This next one will show it, though. That's a blurry picture, and he wasn't that off balance, but he had a huge... So I got to tell this, you'll get a kick out of this story. When I go to work, it's an old winery that's not there anymore, but the sign says Bar Tunic or something like that is the name of this old winery. Well, you know what I think of every time I see that sign? Bar Kentucky.
Bar Kentucky.
Yeah, Bar Kentucky, because that's the sign of Freckles Fury. Yeah, and I'm so dyslexic and I'm so into horses that when I see that, every morning I see that and I think old Freckles Fury, and I'm like, I got a problem. But anyway.
Yeah.
And then here's one of his more famous offspring. Of course, this is Cara Adamski. She's a friend of the podcast. She's been on here playing the Who Wants to Be a POA and stuff. And this is Campbell's Birdie. So Larry Gibson had her, and she was a Freckles Fury daughter. But he raised a lot of good fillies by Freckles Fury. So it's kind of funny. I'm glad you sent me this picture, Bob, because this is kind of what started it all for you. You sitting up in the stands as a young man. At Simon's Arena in Money Creek.
Never dreamed I'd own him one day.
Never dreamed. Plus all the other stuff you've done then since. But he did have a special look. They said he was one of the huskiest sons of Prince Bloddet, and he probably was. It doesn't show it in that picture, but he looks more regal there. But which he had that too. He very photogenic.
Maybe he might have been out pasture breeding before that. Yeah. Because I think the sale was in August or something.
Yeah, it was August or September. I'm sure he was running. I'm sure he was running out there because they had that ranch. So, yeah. I wish I would have got a chance to go there. It was only about 3 hours from where I grew up.
I always got their book. They put out a neat brochure thing every year.
I have about 3
colored.
Yeah,
with Rockledge rearing up on the front, Money Creek's Rockledge.
He could have been a POA. I mean, let's face it, he wasn't that big, and he went back to the same stuff that was Siri. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Siri Chic and Arab Tazra Alcara.
It's no wonder that some of their stuff became POAs and stuff because of him, and then Prince Fury being there. So Gold Prince was foaled at their place. If people don't know, that's watching. He was born in 75 at their place, and then he went on to, just bought by some family in Minnesota, and then worked his way down to Rogers in Iowa. And of course they were POA people, so he blew up then with them. And then you came with this guy, so Prince Fury. But all right, Bob, you got any other stories that you got to get off your chest and tell about?
No, I got other stories, but not for this time.
Maybe a part 2 next year.
Conspiracy.
We'll have an after dark. That one will be at 11:30 at night, not 6:30.
Okay, yeah.
So, well, thanks a lot, Bob. You've been a great guest, and you have a lot of knowledge on Wiescamp, and I need to come up to your house and watch some of those videos because I grew up watching that. This book that I alluded to earlier, the Hank Wiescamp story, I was just looking before I called you, and it came out in 96 or whenever it came out, maybe before that. I forget, because his sale was around, let's see, when was it? Yeah, 96, first printing. Anyway, it was May of 96. And so I was like 24 years old when that book came out. So I've been reading the Wiescamp book. I wore on a couple of them. And then those videos that Gene had sent me, and some John Taylor, what's his name? Tyler?
Joe Taylor.
Joe Taylor, Joe Taylor. He took some of those videos, and then, other people took them too. And then Gene did later in life too. And man,
Frank Holmes' theory on Skip and Go was that he was by Mighty Marshall. Hank leased Mighty Marshall to Apstead. Skip and Go is a quarter horse AQHA champion, but he thinks he was by him just because the way he looked, his boxing muzzle, his socks, and then Hank used him on his apps a lot. Towards the end, you look at his app pedigrees, that Skip and Go was in there a lot. So
right,
I don't know.
That could be, yeah. And Mighty Marshall, you don't hear much about him at Wiescamps. You know what I mean? You do, of course, from others, but you don't hear there's no mention of him hardly in the book.
There was, he'd get solid apps that he would keep and put quarter horse papers on them, or like Skipper Shem, that the Wilcox family, they kept Skipper Shem as a stud, and then some of the top mares after Hank died.
Right. And
then carried on for a while. Well, they say Skipper Shem's mother, his real mother, sold at the end of the sale as a grade mare, and she was a solid app mare, and she brought like 10,000.
Because some people knew
Somebody knew who she was.
Wow. Yeah. Well, when he had, how many horses did that man have over the years? Thousands of horses.
Yeah.
He had hundreds at a time, right? He had, So, and then he had the Cremellos way back in the day. That one film I seen from the 50s or the 60s, there's a whole herd of, they look like.
You'd have to hide them out in the mountains because they called them albinos. You couldn't register them, so he'd register them as Palomino.
Yeah, and then hide them.
Yeah,
but he could cross those on his red studs and get some beautiful.
They drove.
Palominos
every time.
Yeah, because he produced some gorgeous Palominos. He had some like Oak and Sport and stuff that were just really nice Palominos, but then he had those orangey looking Palominos, that just looked so beautiful.
I seen some neat, really dark chocolate ones there.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, just every color you can imagine.
And a lot of those horses never even got famous because they just, he had so many of them, they couldn't, so.
Yeah, you go down those stud rows, there's so many of them, but you couldn't use them all.
Right. But he definitely had the bug for horses.
I got a piece of board off of one of his corrals with his brand on it. Bought it at one of the sales.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because that place is all flattened now. Nothing's there.
Yeah.
The house is like a dentist's office or something.
That's what I heard. I have a friend that's drives for us. He's 84 years old. And he's went by there, and he said, and then I seen pictures when you guys went through there. It's on your Facebook page, and it's all flattened out. Yeah, I was looking at that last night. All the
corrals. And then the potato barn, they called it down the road.
It's still there.
He'd keep. I think it's still there. But he'd hide out studs in there, hide out horses in there, and everybody's trying to get in there and look, see what he had in there. And
right.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stories.
Oh, he had some stuff no one's ever had a picture of. That maybe was some of his best stuff. So that's just how it was. Well, Bob, thanks a lot for being on here. We had a lot of good people watching too. Had a lot of comments. So, and then people watched us for a long time. This will be archived on Facebook and eventually YouTube too. So you can tell people to go watch it on there. So.
Yep.
Okay, Bob. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Yep.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that was Bob Roseland from Iowa. Bob's a very knowledgeable man, great horseman. Like you seen a picture there, he was showing skipping tents. I figured Amber had never seen that picture. I was going to send it to her today, and I got busy, and I was hoping she'd see it tonight, and she did. Of course, we seen the great pictures of her in skipping tents. a couple weeks ago. So, all right, everybody, thank you for watching. It's a late show. It isn't quite 2 hours, so we could have talked on and on. Bob was kind of getting warmed up there at the end. So there's a lot of different stories when it comes to Hank Wiescamp. But if you think about the man, he's in the AQHA, the Appaloosa, and the Paint Hall of Fame. I don't know if there's a Hall of Fame for Palominos. There might be. He's probably in that. And then his impact he's had on POAs, which he never bred a POA intentionally, but he ended up Santee Plotted Nan, Hardship by Gene Carr, became the only Wiescamp POA that I know of bred by the guy. But all right, guys, thanks so much for watching the show. 2 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks on December 3rd for episode 100, and that'll be the Pat Burton episode. That'll be a cool episode again. Pop the popcorn for that one, and then we'll take another 2-week break, and we'll come back on December 17th for the last episode of the year. That'll be episode 101. That's the Stallion roster episode. Of course, that's a sponsored show. People pay $40 to get their stallion or stallions in there. And, you know, it's not just advertising. You can go and advertise for free nowadays, but it's also a time capsule. That'll be always together for years to come. So I've done that for 4 years now. So, you know, 20 years from now, that group of stallions will be all together in a little video. So keep that in mind, too, when you're thinking about putting your stallion in there. It's really a good deal to put him in there for only $40, or if you have multiple stallions. And we may do 2 shows. If we get too many stallions, if we get 25 or more, we might do a show Tuesday night and Wednesday night of that week. And then we'll be done for the year. So we'll start out again next year. This was episode 33 of the year. So that's pretty cool. That's a third of my episodes, because this is episode 99. A third of Black Hand and Beyond have been done this year. So again, I want to thank my special guest, Bob Roseland from Iowa, for sending me so many pictures and being a great guest. I want to thank everybody else that allowed me to use pictures and stuff. I know the cars allowed me to use some pictures. I actually, you know, had them. Nowadays, you can get them off of different sites and stuff, and some people don't realize. I know some people contacted Carolyn Carr. They were concerned that I was using some of their pictures, but actually, you know, I had them already from Gene, and if you go on Allbreed, most of them are on there, and there's just so many published spots now, different websites and stuff, that there's so many pictures floating around. So, and unfortunately, I didn't have pictures tonight of Show Mount and Skip and Choice and some of those cool Wiescamp stallions that Gene used, because they're on like 8 computers ago. I can't get to them. I wish we would have had the cloud years ago when Gene used to send me pictures. I seen a picture of Cherry Bounce, old quarter stallion. I found that last night. I was digging for pictures. He sent that to me like in 1994, and it was a picture from the 50s. So I have so many cool pictures from different people throughout the years, and POAs and quarter horse and Appaloosas that sent me stuff. So that you can't do these shows without the help of other people sending me stuff. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and see you in 2 weeks in Studio J. Let's thank you, Jacksons. They were our only sponsor tonight. Jackson's Auto Family. Come join the family.
Come join the family.
All right, guys. See you in 2 weeks when we're talking to our special guest will be Pat Burton. Enjoy the song, everyone.